Market data predicts that by 2027, more than 50% of business decisions will be augmented or automated by AI decision intelligent platforms. This is underscoring the critical role of tuning AI insights into measurable business outcomes. My name is Paul Nashwater. I'm the principal analyst at theCUBE Research. I'm joined by Sridhar, Jody, and Molam. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Why don't you all introduce yourselves real quickly? Sridhar, let's start with you.
Yeah, Sridhar Rao. I'm the global CTO for the Telecom vertical at Snowflake, and I support the Telecom customers and partners.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Jody, how about you?
So I'm the global industry go-to-market lead at Snowflake, and similar to Sri, I basically support the go-to-market strategy and planning and execution for the telco vertical.
Well, it's great to have Snowflake on today. And Molam, how about you?
Hi, I'm Mohab. I'm the CEO of RelationalAI. RelationalAI works closely with Snowflake and a variety of telcos. We bring decision intelligence into Snowflake. I'm sure we're going to be talking about that today.
It's great to have you on as well. This is a very important topic. As we know, the market is shifting. There's a lot happening between BI to AI to DI, and decision intelligence really is shaping the market landscape. It's shifting different AI investments from experimental outcomes to really outcome-driven platforms. So Molam, let's kind of start with you. What is DI and why should the market care?
Yeah, I can answer that question generally, and then maybe I can give some telco-specific examples. So if running your business was like driving a car, business intelligence is the dashboard in the car. It tells you how fast you're going, how many miles you've traveled, how much fuel you have left. It's telling you what's going on right now and what happened in recent history. Decision intelligence is more like the navigation system. It's the GPS. It's the system they use to figure out what's the best way to get to your desired destination. How do I get there from here in the shortest way, in the most economic way, the fastest way, whatever my criteria are. And so it's fundamentally more predictive and prescriptive, and it's about what's going to happen and making decisions on getting a good outcome than about what happened. So specifically in telco, that can manifest in a variety of ways. You can use decision intelligence to improve network optimization and management. Everything from predictive maintenance to dynamic traffic routing to deployment and planning, building digital twins. These are examples of decision intelligence for network optimization. You can also apply decision intelligence for customer experience and retention, predicting churn and preventing it, hyper-personalization, intelligent customer service, proactive support, supporting people before they have an issue. These are all examples of things that you would do with the help of decision intelligence. Business operations and revenue protection, again, fraud detection, strategic marketing, revenue assurance. And then the fourth area that applies in telco for decision intelligence is like strategic planning. How do I make infrastructure decisions? Where do I build the new towers? Where do I add radios? Where do I allocate spectrum? How do I do supply chain optimization? Telcos are often some of the world's largest retailers, and they have stores and they have inventory, and they need to get inventory to those stores. They also manage a lot of equipment that's part of the infrastructure of the network itself. And then, of course, things like ESG and compliance, where you can accurately track carbon emissions and things like that. So there are many applications of decision intelligence in all industries, many specifically in the telco industry. And what's exciting about the work that we're doing with Snowflake and customers like AT&T is that we're bringing business intelligence and decision intelligence into one place. And that makes it much easier to benefit from decision intelligence.
So Molam, it doesn't sound like this is something that's going away anytime soon. If anything, it's something that's accelerating, that puts on the gas. The industry's taking off with this. It really has a lot to do with the impacts to making the right call at the right time. It's no longer just about having data. It's understanding what data is doing and using that decision layer in order to make that work, right? So when we look at this, Jody, I want to ask you a question around intelligent infrastructure, and it needs this decision layer in order to basically have control plane for those AI native workloads. What are your thoughts around this, and how does this impact the overall market?
See, I mean, from my perspective, intelligent infrastructure, I come from a very connectivity infrastructure background. So when I look at that environment, connectivity is evolving into becoming a strategic platform, or at least that's where the operators want to take it, right? And the decisions that must be automated in that, from a connectivity to become a strategic platform, are the ones that directly control outcomes, like some of the stuff that Molam was already mentioning, like SLAs, customer experience, cost, risk. And that needs to be done at a speed that, us humans cannot really match. So what I feel is that, from a decision intelligence perspective, an intelligent infrastructure perspective, it kind of broadly falls under 3 or 4 decision families. That we service assurance decisions, which basically impacts quality of experience, service level assurance protection, not just things like show me where congestion happens. The example of the dashboard and the navigation system that Molam was referring to earlier. So the BI part would be just showing where customers are experiencing congestion, but then deciding what to really do about it, steering the traffic, prioritizing how to admit users, giving them premium experience and flows, where to place a workload at the edge, when to route a particular flow into a network slice, really making the product outcome based. And I don't think that should be optional. And that's where I feel like decision intelligence plays a big role. A few more things that come to my mind are, things like energy capacity discussions. I think Molam referred to this already from a sustainability perspective. The network has to decide when to shift energy modes, how to trade capacity versus power without really breaking the experience. And I think that flow, decision intelligence, plays a big role because of the outcome that it needs to center it around.
Sorry. Yeah, no, that makes sense, Joji. I really appreciate that, because that really does kind of tie back into not just decision flow, but also taking the insights, having that information. And Sridhar, I want to ask you, because I know that this is a kind of a big part about how we look at the closed loop manner. What are the first two to three things that kind of close loop in that manner that separates automation from decision intelligence? And really, like, also in that same vein, how do operators make cross-domain trade-offs explicitly and to audit that as well? And Sridhar, let's go to you on that one.
Yeah, so the distinction between closed loop automations and decision intelligence is that there's an inherent trade-off that happens. When you build closed loop automations in the traditional sense, those trade-offs are baked in. You have predetermined outcomes that you have based on certain logic rules and things like that, right? And then as operators are starting to build some of their autonomous network capabilities, there are unknowns that are happening. Things are happening dynamically. And when you want to actually make those decisions against that dynamically changing environment, a predetermined set of rules aren't going to be sufficient. And that's where the decision intelligence that we are talking about here is so critical, because you're able to actually make that trade-off decisions. And being able to make those trade-off decisions in an auditable manner is the key. Because it can't be that you made a decision and you don't know why you did it, right? So the decision engine also has to know what were the reasons, what were the trade-offs that were taken at each given point in time, and then what were the possible outcomes that were discarded before a final decision was made. All of those things play into how the closed loop automation makes an autonomous choice in terms of why it is doing something. And this is critical, and it is also different. And this is what operators need for them to get to an L4 or L5 autonomous network operations.
Yeah, that makes, I get that. That makes a lot of sense. I think the other thing that kind of you were talking about here that was triggering in my head was the kind of the impact of security governance and speed when decision runs, governed data. So Molam, maybe you can touch a little on this, because when we think about compliance, regulation, and governance and speed's a big factor here to get the results that you want. And as we're looking at these converging systems coming together, I think that's incredibly important to understand from this audience.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I think decision intelligence has been difficult to implement and use because it required one or more new technology stacks in the footprint. And that meant you had to re-secure data, you had to kind of capture semantics in a variety of ways. There was a lot of complexity involved in doing decision intelligence and having to regovern it and resecure it and integrate it into your main workflows. And so the key innovation here that Snowflake and RelationalAI are bringing to market is that we're bringing decision intelligence, leveraging the Snowflake native app architecture, bringing decision intelligence directly into Snowflake, into the BI system that has basically all the data from an enterprise. And so no data leaves Snowflake. It's all runs inside the security perimeter. It's all governed the same way. You don't have to worry about manually managing copies of data across many different technology silos. It's all in one place, and it makes it possible for us to deploy Gen AI agents based on language models and so on to leverage the BI tools and the decision intelligence tools together simultaneously to do things that you can't even imagine doing if you are spanning technology silos and things were not like coherent and well-governed in one place. So, we're the first to do it, and we think that is the market has sort of responded very positively to that. We think that sort of takes away a lot of the complexity and the costs involved with doing decision intelligence at scale. And we're excited to be working with our early supporters, early customers to help them reap the value and the rewards from having it all coherent in one place.
Yeah, there's no question the market is definitely adopting. This is something that's in place. But I think it's key to point out the devil's in the details here, because if you're trying to do this yourself, there's a lot of things that you can miss and not do correctly, and that's important. And so, Joji, I want to ask you about how decision intelligence, when we're talking about governance, right? How is governing programmable networks and enterprises SLAs, and have you seen measurable operational sustainability impacts? Have you seen this in your space?
Yeah, so I actually think decision intelligence is where programmable networks actually stop becoming a slogan. So once you expose network capabilities via APIs, you're effectively selling decision connectivity. And that's because enterprises that you sell this to, or even consumers that you sell this to, will actually demand proof. So if I can think of two facts that matter here, Open Gateway launched an initial set of network APIs, right, including things like quality on demand, SIM swap, device status, and number verification, whatnot. So the industry is clearly going towards these consumable network capabilities. And if you look at the Camara standard, quality on demand API describes the programmable interface where developers can request certain stable latency or prioritize throughput and whatnot, and that is managed by the network. That is literally an API that is shaped by the SLA request. So what does decision intelligence do in this case, right? It helps it in three different ways. One is enforcing the policy and entitlement. So the second is the actual decisioning and orchestration, given the constraints. Do we accept this request now? What resources do we need to allocate across all of the domains that it needs to be orchestrated? And the proof, did we actually deliver the intent? So that's where the auditability comes in. If not, then what is the corrective action that needs to be taken? And can we show that evidence trail, right? So I think the same aspect applies to the sustainability question that you raised. Essentially, ensuring that it's not just, I've monitored energy and the consumption, but then the actions that are taken to conserve energy, manage energy, are auditable. There is a trail on how that actually impacts customer experience while meeting the sustainability goals.
Yeah, I think this is definitely very aware of this in our research. We see that there's with the use of AI to kind of look at these different stages really kind of impacts how that information is being used. But I will say that there's a maturity in organizations that some organizations are more mature than others that are able to take advantage of some of these functionalities and features that other organizations are just not ready to do so at this point. But Sridhar, I think that this does come down to architecture choice. We have this event coming up, right? Mobile World Congress is coming up. It's obviously a very large event. But when we talk about the architecture choice, it's critical at global telecoms in order for them to scale. What are your thoughts around that with regards to adding DI on top of already kind of systems that are bursting at the seams?
Yeah, that's a very good point, right? When it comes to architecture, the way I like to think about it is, what we need is the underlying data architecture needs to be straightened out a little bit, right? And that is something that we have been doing in Snowflake for a long time. I call that the telecom data accelerators. From the time that the data gets generated to the time that data actually is actionable with intelligence, we need to shorten that data. And then there is a knowledge plane that sits on top of that abstracts the underlying data, but has the knowledge constructs, which is where you are trying to understand what that data means within my process, within my enterprise, within my network. And then you're creating the decision intelligence based on that abstraction, which allows you to understand and make decisions and then reason through different choices and then do the trade-offs and all of those things. So that knowledge plane needs to sit on top of that data. So you need to have that capability where a knowledge plane can sit on any data construct. So you should be able to have that abstraction there. And then once you have that knowledge plane, the most important thing is you can embed decision within your application, right? So if you have a monolithic application, you could basically create decision engines within those applications. That's not going to help an intelligent infrastructure. What you need is decision as a service. You need to have that decision engine itself available to multiple entities that can sit on top of that. So that's where we start talking about you create a marketplace where you have data, AI, and agent marketplace that can actually use this decision layer for you in a whatever manner that these agents need to use them, right? So if you can create these abstractions where you have the data accelerators, which is abstracted from the knowledge plane where you are building your decision engine, which then abstracts the underlying implementation details for agents to interact with. Now you truly have an intelligent infrastructure that can make decisions that are logical, reasonable, and auditable, but then also a little bit deterministic. You're not randomly making decisions and hallucinating. You're making decisions that are logical and then that can actually be reasoned through in a real life environment.
Yeah, that's really good points there. And I think it also drives back to Mohan. I'm going to come to you on this question because we're coming to the end here, but it does drive back to the idea around decision intelligence really just became its own category. We saw in January that the market amplification, seeing the need for decision intelligent platforms. So when we look at decision intelligence and, we talked about what it was, we talked about why it matters now. But when we think about things like, frontier LLMs are very powerful, right? It's a big part of it. What are some of the kind of things that you want to leave the audience to understand that if they're just getting started and they don't understand what they have, they're using Snowflake today, they're using the data today, why relational AI and why decision intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main challenges that we're seeing with this amazing new technology around Gen AI is that sort of the frontier models are able to do amazing things, but we don't see enterprises extracting value proportionally to what those frontier models can do. There's a gap between the potential for value creation and actual value creation in the enterprise. And we think there are limits to that kind of value creation when you're just looking sort of at historical performance. And I think you can start to really drive the business, build agents that are really helping you run your business better when you give them the tools for BI and DI in the same place. Okay, so that's really, to me, the unlock for Gen AI is Gen AI applied to business intelligence is awesome. It's great. But when you bring in Gen AI applied to business intelligence and decision intelligence, where the agents now have the benefit of the decision intelligence tools for predictive reasoning, prescriptive reasoning, and graph reasoning, and rules-based reasoning that they don't have in a BI system that we bring together with Snowflake in one place, there's a real value unlock, right? It's lower operating expenses, by reducing manual and repetitive and time-consuming tasks. It's increased revenue, it's improved quality of service, customers are happier, and then faster decision cycles. And that's the kind of unlock, the value unlock that that we need to realize in order to justify the investments in Gen AI and in technology in general. So it's a very exciting time. I think the decision intelligence becomes easier to implement with Gen AI as well, right? Decision intelligence is not easy. Historically, if you wanted to build predictive models, you needed a lot of people, data scientists, to build features and build these models. You needed operations research expertise that was not easy to find. You needed forward deployed engineers in various flavors to build semantic models, which were not easy to do. You needed to build evals, right? A lot of that stuff is manual labor that now we can apply Gen AI to help you, build the semantic model, to help you build the predictive models, to help you build the prescriptive models, to help you even with eval creation, right? The opportunity for Gen AI is labor, and the kind of labor we all want to minimize is the labor it takes to implement decision intelligence. So virtuous feedback here, virtuous loop that we can get into, because Gen AI makes it much easier to implement decision intelligence.
Yeah, Molam, thank you very much. This has been really, really insightful. There's a lot here that we talked about. Obviously, we talked a lot here about DI and decision intelligence. We talked about AI. We talked about going to MWC, right, and what's happening there. So there's a lot going on. We're very much looking forward to continuing this conversation. Molam, real quick, where should the audience go if they want to learn more?
RelationalAI is our website, and we have a lot of stuff there. And then, of course, reach out to us via the website or LinkedIn or email, and we'd love to talk to you. So.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you all basically for showing up today and attending this session. This has really been a really powerful session. Whether you're, the audience is early in their journey or fully mature, they really get a lot out of it. There's obviously the audience knows that this is just the tip of the iceberg when we're talking about this information. So, but a big thank you for showing up today. And a thank you to all of you who showed up and tuned in. We do really appreciate you being part of the App Dev Angle community. But for now, that wraps up this episode. But we'll be back next Wednesday with another conversation diving into the tools, trends, and talent shaping the future of application development. So whether you're deploying at the edge, building with AI, or modernizing your cloud stack, we've got you covered. Be sure to follow us on social if you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to connect. Until next time, stay curious and stay building.